Greetings, folks. If you are paying $20 a month for a ChatGPT subscription or some other chatbot subscription, you are more than likely getting ripped off. Unless you're using it for something like coding or really long documents, or you're just a super heavy user, you are probably better off paying directly for your usage through something like OpenRouter. When you use OpenRouter, you have access to hundreds of different models from different providers, so you're not locked into just OpenAI's models like you are when you use something like ChatGPT. And instead of paying $20 per month, you pay for your actual usage by the token, by the number of words you input and get back from the model. With very large documents or whole code bases, this does become very expensive very quickly. But for simple back and forth questioning or chatting, you'll often be paying fractions of a cent for your usage, especially if you're not using the latest frontier proprietary models that are often orders of magnitude more expensive than open source equivalents that are just as good for many use cases. OpenRouter does have a built-in chat interface like what you'd see in ChatGPT, but it's not very good in my opinion. So I've been looking for an alternative. A common open source solution to this issue of getting a new front end for models and for providers like OpenRouter is to use something called OpenWebUI. But OpenWebUI is very heavy, it's more complicated to set up, it uses more system resources. If you are a light occasional AI user, OpenWebUI is going to be overkill for your needs. Enter here llms.py, which pitches itself as a lightweight OpenAI compatible server gateway and a OpenWebUI alternative for both local and cloud language models. If we go over to the documentation, we can see that llms.py is very easy to set up. It can be installed simply as a Python module, but you can also run it in Docker, as I'll show in a second. And the only thing you need is your OpenRouter API key. And if you go to OpenRouter and create an account, it's very straightforward, and there's instructions available there on how to get an API key, which is basically a password you can use to programmatically access all the different models available through OpenRouter. I recommend installing llms.py through Docker Compose. They provide a sample Docker Compose file. You don't need all of these different API keys. You only need OpenRouter if that's what you're going to use. If you're not familiar with Docker or Docker Compose, there's tons of great tutorials on the internet and on YouTube. However, if you run something like TrueNAS on a home server, it's also available as a pre-configured app, and you can just install it through the TrueNAS app catalog. So once you have it set up, you'll see something like this. Let's change it over to dark mode because we are sane individuals here. As you can see, this is a very ChatGPT-like interface where you can type your message down here, and there's a list of your conversations up here. One of the big selling points of llms.py is that they have a dynamic model selector. So like I mentioned, with OpenRouter, you have access to all the different models from different providers. llms.py is supposed to let you freely and dynamically select from all those models, since different models have different capabilities and different costs and different use cases. So if we go up here to select a model, you'll see we can scroll down through the hundreds or 207 models that are available here. However, this is where we also run into our first major problem. When you're using OpenRouter, companies will sometimes offer their models for free if they're a cheap model or it's new and they're trying to gain interest or testing it. And you can see several models are marked free here. But if we select Kimi K2, which is reported to be free here, and we type a message, we hit send, we get this error message that tells us no endpoints are found for this Kimi K2 free model that we're trying to use. Why is this? Well, if we go to the list of models available on OpenRouter here, and we search for Kimi, there is no longer a Kimi K2 free version being offered. So what is going on? Well, LLMs is supposed to draw its list of available models from something called models.dev. Models.dev is a community-driven open source database of all the AI model endpoints across all of the dozens of providers that are out there. So if we go to models.dev and we search for Kimi K2 and we scroll down to the Open Router provider section, we can see that Kimi K2 free is still listed as an available endpoint here. And that's because nobody has gone into the models.dev repository on GitHub and removed it. That's the double-edged sword about community-driven projects. They're great because they're open and they are serving the needs of the community rather than the needs of a company, but it is all volunteer labor and it's not guaranteed to be accurate. But there are some other weird things going on with the models.dev and LLM's integration here. On the week that I'm recording this, several new important models have dropped on OpenRouter, including Quinn 3.6 Plus and the Gemma 4 models. If we search for Quinn 3.6, we find nothing. We have the older 3.5 models, but not 3.6, which is currently running for free on OpenRouter. Now that is surprising because if we go back to models.dev and we search for 3.6, Quinn 3.6 plus here, we do see the 3.6 endpoint listed as available for OpenRouter, but it's not available in llms.py for some reason. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. In fact, we can go into the GitHub repo where models.dev is hosted and we can see the pull request where someone has added all of the metadata for the Quinn 3.6 endpoint. And apparently the issue with a mismatch between what's in the database and what applications are able to access is not limited to llms.py. There's an issue right now in the models.dev GitHub repo where this person is explaining that they're having exactly the same problem, but with open code, where the models that are listed in models.dev are, for whatever reason, not actually visible to software that's supposed to be pulling from that database. So maybe some of you programmers out there can go look into this and see what's going on there. But if we return to LLMs and we pick a model that does actually match the available endpoints, and we create a new chat with that, and we ask a question, we do get a response here, quite a long response. What you'll also see at the top is this tools section. So, as you may know, a lot of AI use is moving towards this agentic model where the AI can call skills or tools to help it do things or get more information or whatever it may be. So llms.py comes with a variety of built-in tools such as reading, writing, editing files, running code samples, and things like that. In my opinion, the whole point of this is to be something very lightweight, and you can set this up so that it's running in a directory with files and documents if you wanted all the models you're using to have access to that. But if you're going to be working with large documents or wanting to do more agentic stuff or RAG or what have you, I think there are other better platforms for that than this tool here. Fortunately, you can just turn tools off so the models will not waste tokens trying to reason their way if they need to use any tools or anything. If we start a new chat using the Gemma 3 Flash models, which as you can see by the little icons at the bottom of the plaque there has image capabilities or visioning capabilities. We can upload an image and send a prompt, and it will respond just fine. And as you can see, for some models, it will even tell you exactly how much that generation cost. And so as you can see, this is fractions of a cent, 0.01 cents. This is about 1/10 of a cent for this whole input and output here. If we switch over to a image generation model and try that out, we get a very nice image back here. I'm not sure how well this coheres to the prompt. I kind of wanted something that was more arcane, but this is one of the cheapest image generation models out there. It's charging a flat 3 cents per image. The frontier image generation models like Nano Banana and the Flux models can get much more expensive. And if you're doing a lot of image generation with those models, you're probably better off with a subscription. Some other highlights, as you can see, if you're into the agentic stuff, you can go in and create skills, basically predefined instructions for the models to use. There's also an analytics panel where you can see all of your requests and your costs and your inputs and outputs. So as you can see, that image generation costs, an order of magnitude more than the simple text generations I was doing with the other models. A gallery that saves all the images you've put in and gotten out, which is actually really helpful and great, so you don't have to regenerate expensive images as often. And an environment here to run code. I assume this is mostly here because the models need a sandboxed environment to run code. And then lastly, a calculator, which, once again, I assume is here because LLMs are notoriously bad at doing math, and so giving them a real calculator to put stuff into is probably helpful for certain reasoning tasks. So that is llms.py. If you are a light AI user, language model user, I think this could be really good for you. The only problem I have with it is that right now you're not able to use the latest models through OpenRouter, which is really unfortunate. Part of the value proposition of using something like OpenRouter rather than a traditional LLM subscription is that you can always try out the latest models from different providers and oftentimes get them for free while they're still testing out the models. But if you have a particular model that you like to use, like say GPT-4o works really well for your use cases, or Quinn 3.5 works really well, and you don't want to pay for the $20, $10 subscription to those particular providers, you can probably save yourself some money by installing llms.py, getting an OpenRouter API key, and just using the model that way. I hope that's been helpful. Take care, folks.